بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear sisters, my dear daughters, welcome back to a new episode of the biography of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Last time we were talking about the Battle of Uhud, and this is the second battle happened when the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam migrated to Al-Madinah, and it was in the third year after Hijrah. And we mentioned that the Muslim army was about 1,000 fighter, and then and for the disbeliever army was around 3,000 soldiers. And we mentioned how the leader of the hypocrites at that time, Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, he withdrew with 1/3 of the army away during the night of the battle, and how it was this effect at the beginning affected some of the Muslim soldiers, but after that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected them and made them self-confident about before entering the beginning of the battle. We mentioned that the battle at the beginning began with the victory for the Muslims, and the Muslims were fighting in a very brave way. And we mentioned that one of the beginning of sad events began with killing the lion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Sayyid al-Shuhada Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and how he was killed by a black slave. His name was Wahshi. And we mentioned how the steps happened, and then we mentioned also that this slave, after that that slave, he did that for a promise from his master to set him free if he killed Hamza, and that he has no haterness or direct hater towards Hamza radiallahu anhu. And then after that, after the Mecca conquest and Fath Mecca, that slave was entered Islam and became Muslim. And we mentioned that even he became a brave fighter in the Muslim army. Today, inshallah, we're going to continue. We're still in the Battle of Uhud, and we stopped last time at the death of the Hamza, the lion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we'll continue what happened in the Battle of Uhud after that. Although the death of Asadullah and his messenger Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib was a great loss at that battle, the Muslims maintained full control over the whole situation in the battlefield. On that day, Abu Bakr, Umar ibn Khattab, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Az-Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, Mus'ab ibn Umayr, Talha ibn Abdullah, Abdullah ibn Jahsh, Sa'd ibn Rabi', Anas ibn al-Nadr, all these are companions, were around the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. All of them fought so furiously, effectively, and efficiently that they broke the strong will of the idolaters and scattered them. Also, one of the brave fighters at that battle was Hanzala ibn Abu Umayr, and actually he has the title of Ghisil al-Malaika, the Ghisil of the angels. What does it mean? Actually, Hanzala was a new bride and a new groom, and it was the first night for him with his bride. And when he heard about the Battle of the Uhud, he mentioned, I will never stay away from the Muslim army, and I should go for fighting, and he fought in the with the Muslim army, and he was killed by the disbelievers. And that's why the Prophet mentioned about him that he was washed by the angels. When he killed, he was washed by the angels. And we know, of course, that the martyrs, those who are killed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the Muslim, we are not making wash for them. There is no ghusl for them. They just being buried like the same way they were in the battle. And so Hanzala thinks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciated that he left his bride at the first night of their marriage. So appreciating that, and he was called as Ghisil, Ghisil al-Malaika. Then we'll come back to the archers. We mentioned at the beginning that when we started the battle, the Prophet ﷺ gave a clear order for the archers to maintain their positions on the mountain. And even the mountain they were supposed to be on, we mentioned about it, it is a mountain of archers. So the archers Quaid, whom the Messenger of Allah located on the archers mountain, had the upper hand in administrating the war activities to go in favor of the Muslim army. The Meccan horsemen commanded by Khalid ibn Walid. At that time, Khalid was still disbeliever. You know that Khalid, actually he converted to Islam later, later years after that. Before the conquest, he entered to Islam. But in Battle of Uhud, he was still disbeliever. But actually Khalid is considered to be one of the military knights of Islam, and after he converted to Islam, he never entered a battle that he lost. يعني ما شاء Allah, all the battles that was led by Khalid ibn al-Walid, the Muslim army won all the times. So he has actually very intelligent, very smart in the military techniques and how to plan the military plans. And as we mentioned before, and going now to the picture we had before, he had 3 times attacked the left wing of the Muslim army with the aim of crushing it and then infiltrating into the rear to create a sort of confusion and disorder in the ranks of the Muslims, and subsequently inflict heavy defeat on them. But great efforts of the archer prevented that. We mentioned that the place of the archer was very critical. But what happened? Unfortunately, what happened? While the small army of Islam were recording the second absolute and clear victory over the disbelievers, which was no less than the splendor glory that happened in Badr battle, the majority of the archer, when saw the Muslims nearly won the battle and the disbelievers start to escape away, so what happened? They committed a fatal mistake that turned the whole situation upside down and constituted to a source of heavy losses amongst the Muslims when most of the archers left their position on the mountain and descended to gather the spoil, the ghanaim, when they saw the disbelievers escaping from the battle and forgot the order of the Prophet to them. Of course, Khalid at that time, he seized this golden opportunity to turn swiftly around the rear of the Muslim army and encompass them, exterminating Ibn Jubayr. Ibn Jubayr was the leader of the archers, and he started to cry so much that don't leave us, just stay in your position like the Prophet mentioned. But actually, majority of them, they didn't obey him, and they descended from the mountain to take the spoil. And he stayed with around 10 only archers with him. When Khalid and the disbeliever army came, they killed all the archers, including their leader Ibn Jubay. They fell promptly upon the rear of the Muslim, and his horsemen uttered a shout that signaled the new military development. The polytheists returned once again to counter-attack the Muslims. The idolaters gathered together around the standard and called one another after they being escaped when they saw Khalid just entered through the Muslim army from behind and start to make shout to come to me. We have now an opening that we can go through. They start to gather themselves again, the disbelievers, and start to attack the Muslims. And here the Muslim entrapped between two milestones. This is the map of what happened during this battle, just to make it clear. Here we mentioned that this was the red arrows representing the disbeliever army, and the white arrows representing the Muslim army, and this brown is the mountain of Uhud. We mentioned that it was the position of the Muslim army here and being defended from back by the mountain. And this only was the opening that the disbeliever can go through. We can see here. This is a mountain, the Archer mountain we mentioned about. The Archer is supposed to be here. And every time Khalid with his group of the disbeliever army try to go here, they start to make their archer targeted them. When they left their position and start to go here when the Muslims army appeared that the victory will be from the Muslim and start the polytheist or the disbeliever to escape. So this part was empty and only the Muslims was here. So were here. So when the archers saw that, they started to rapidly leave, they left their position and came here for taking the spoils. Khalid with his army was here. He saw the archers already left the mountain. Few of them only are present. So he came through this direction, as we can see this arrow, and start to attack the Muslim from behind. And of course, he killed all the archers present, resting archers, the rest of archers was present, and then start to attack the Muslim from behind and start to shout and to all the disbelievers bring themselves together. So they divided them into two groups, one group attacking the Muslim from behind and the other group is attacking the Muslim from in front. And it was very dangerous position, especially for the Prophet ﷺ. He found himself, the Muslim start, of course, to escape here near to the mountain. They don't know what to do, and he start to tell them, come to me, I am the Prophet, which was a very courageous moment and very brave moment from the Prophet ﷺ, to let the people come towards him. And actually who came first were the disbelievers. And as we're going to see, he was hurted ﷺ lots after that. Here, as we mentioned, the messenger obliged to follow one of the two options, to flee for his life and abandon his army to its doomed end, or to take action at the risk of his life, rally and the ranks of the Muslim again, to walk through the hill of Uhud towards the encompassed army. So what he chose, alayhi salatu wasalam, his matchless courage made him opt for the second course. He raised his voice and calling unto his companions, slaves of Allah, come to me, come to me. So he did that, though he knew that his loud voice could be heard by the idolaters before it was heard by the Muslims, and he called out unto them, risking his life, alayhi salatu wasalam, in this delicate situation. The idolaters recognized him and reached his position even before the other Muslim could so, and he was pelted with stones by the disbelievers, and his lower right incisor, his Ruba'iyya alayhi salatu wasalam, was injured. His lower lip was wounded. He was attacked by one of the disbelievers with his sword to cleave his forehead. Of course, the Prophet ﷺ was wearing the like an the overhead that of made of iron that protect his head. But even though the power of the sword by that disbeliever made it reached to his head and was injury in his head, alayhi salatu wasalam, also to his shoulder was injured by another one of the disbelievers, and that remains hurt him for more than 1 month. He been hurt. Um so it was not strong enough to break his two armors, but he was hurt. He dealt heavy blow on his cheek also. It was so strong that the two rings of his iron ringed helmet penetrated into his holy cheek. So we can imagine how much of the injuries the Prophet ﷺ had at that day. He has one of his toes was broken, and his lips alayhi salatu wasalam was injured, and his head was injured, and even his cheek, the rings of the iron helmet invaded his cheek alayhi salatu wasalam. His shoulder was hurted. All that happened to him, and he was very near to be assassinated or killed. Al-Bukhari, in the Sahih al-Bukhari, stated that his incisor broke, his head was cleaved, and he started wiping the blood off and saying, I wonder how can people who cut the face of their prophet and break the incisor of his, he who calls them to worship Allah, how can such people thrive or be successful? About that incident, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al Imran, ayah 128, not for you, Ya Muhammad, is the decision, whether he turns in mercy to pardon them or punishes them. Verily, they are the zalimun. Al-zalimun here, they are the wrongdoers, which stand for polytheist and disobedient, all the people that used to attack the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Then the Prophet surrounded by his companion and went behind the mountain of Uhud. Just away, they tried to they came after that, of course, after all these injuries, they came, the Muslim, around the Prophet, and they were surrounding him, and they made like a protective circle around him and took him to behind the mountain of Uhud. And at that time, the disbeliever army, they didn't follow them. They stopped at that point and mentioned that they had the victory of this battle, and they started to shout with the names of their idols. And when heard by the Prophet, when they said the names of their idols, the Prophet told his companion to reply to them and say Allahu Akbar, Allahu A'az. And that was the end of the day of the battle of Uhud. Of course, not only the Prophet was injured, many other of the Muslim army was injured. And not only Hamza radiallahu anhu was killed at that battle, around 70 of the Muslim soldiers were killed in that battle. And when we mention 70, it's around 10% of the Muslim population at that time. 10% of the Muslim population were killed in that battle of Uhud. Of course, all the Muslims were sad about what happened, and they recognized that it was the fault of the archers who did not obey the order of the Prophet. Next, so for the Prophet felt that the whole army are not in a good psychological state and mood. So in a trial that he wants to elevate, alayhi salatu wasalam, although all his injuries. Next day immediately, there was another ghazwa or battle called Hamra al-Asad. Hamra al-Asad. The Prophet led the Uhud army into Hamra al-Asad. This is another place after Uhud. They went through it next day with the same army who was with him in Battle of Uhud, and to mention to them that we will continue in a trial to tell the Muslim army that we did not defeat it. We will continue our battle against the disbelievers. With all the sadness, with all the hurts, with all the injury, the Muslim army continued to defend themselves and defend the religion. And when they reached this place where the disbelievers supposed to be present, the disbeliever heard about that, and they fled back to Mecca fearfully and in anxious. And they mentioned to themselves, now we are considering Battle of Uhud is our victory. We will not go through another battle that may be defeated. They were afraid, even with all the injuries in the Muslim army, they were afraid that they may be defeated by the Muslim army in Hamra al-Asad. That's why they returned back to Mecca and they considered what happened in Uhud is their victory. Now we'll stop at the Battle of Uhud result, which seems to be actually some of the scholars considered to be as defeat for the Muslim, and the Muslim defeated at that battle. And they started to analyze what happened and what were the causes and the reasons for this the army to be defeated. So Ibn al-Qayyim, one of the scholars that mentioned about the Battle of Uhud, given a full elucidation of the divine benefits and moralities that resulted from it. As the Battle of Badr, it was a great victory for the Muslims, came the next year, in the third year of Hijrah, the Battle of Uhud was reversed. What happened was the reverse. Because of the archer of the explicit command, they didn't obey the command of the Prophet, leaving the spot which they were ordered to safeguard to the end. What we can learn from that, at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted the Muslim to learn, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most able and the All Might, and he can do whatever he wants. Why he didn't make the Muslim has the victory that day of Uhud? Just to make them learn and to make us also learn. To learn what? What to learn? To learn that the success of Muslims depends upon their obedience to the Prophet. As long as they carry out his guidance, Allah will help them in facing all kinds of odds and stress and attacks. But when they will set aside his commands in their pursuit of worldly riches, they are bound to come to grief. So the victory is coming when we follow the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his Prophet. If we follow the order of our hawa, of our desire, of what we love or what we like, so we'll fail, we will lose. And this is what happened with the archers. When the archers saw that the spoil, all we mentioned at that time, al-ghanaim was like the camels and the cows and the sheep are present, all of them, and this is considered a wealth at that time for the Arabs. And the sign of wealthy man, how many camels he has, how many sheep, how many cows. So they started to have the desire for the dunya, the desire for the life. They start to say, no, we won the battle, and now we'll go to take our spoil. So here they forgot They forgot what the Prophet told them because they have their hawa or their desire at that moment. At that moment, the desire for them was at an upper level than the order of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. That's what happened to them, the defeat, or that the things goes wrong. And this is يعني, what happened to them, and they were the companion. They are the best of the best. The companion, the people who saw the Prophet ﷺ and was accompanying him and having him with them. And the Prophet was present with them. And this defeat happened when the Prophet is present. So here, when we are talking about ourselves now, we are talking about the Muslims now, we need to follow يعني step by step what the Prophet supposed to do in order to have the victory for the Islam, in order to have the pride for the Islam, in order even to be a respected Muslim. To be a respected Muslim in this life, you have to follow what came in the Quran and what came in the Sunnah. Because if you not follow or take part and leave another, you will change it to hypocrite. And this is hypocrite was supposed to do, take part and leave part. The part I like, I will take. The part I will not take. So this is very important lesson to be learned from the Battle of Uhud. Number two, it's a customary for the prophets to be tried. It was a trial for the Prophet ﷺ by having this calamity and adversity. He wounded, he injured, lots of injury in his noble body and noble lips and shoulders and head. Does it mean that Allah doesn't like him? No, of course, he is the most beloved creature for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it was a type of trial, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing him. And by his patience, and he was patient and he was merciful. All the time he was merciful with the disbelievers. All what happened, and we still will happen after that when we take inshallah the battle of Al-Khandaq. When he came to Fath Makkah or the Makkah conquest, he forgave all that. He forgave all these people. All these calamity and injury and pain they caused for him and for the Muslim, he forgave all that. Another point, should the Muslim be victorious all the time? This is a question to be think about. Should the Muslim be victorious all the time? Because if that happens, many pretenders to faith will enter the fold of Islam. And consequently, the clear line of demarcation between true believers and hypocrites will become blurred. We will not know the hypocrites. The hypocrites, as we're going to see now, will be well known during the hardship. And this is what happened. We mentioned about their leader Abdullah ibn Ubay, when he took third of the army with him the night before the battle. So usually in case of hardship and case of failure or case of that there is no victory, there is sifting between true Muslims and hypocrites could be realized. Also from the lessons, and we can learn from Uhud that the great courage of the Prophet ﷺ, you can imagine, as we mentioned in the picture, that the Muslim army being squeezed between two portions of the disbeliever, one from behind, part of the army of disbeliever from behind, and the other one from the front. And he, in the middle of all that, he starts shout by saying, "Halummu ibad Allah, halummu ilayya, come to me, slaves of Allah." So he's announcing about himself. And it was a very dangerous point at that time. He could be killed. He could be killed easily, unless with the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why this is the reason he been hurted. He didn't escape. He didn't say, "Oh, it was the fault of the archers. How could I win this battle?" Because some of the soldiers were the cause of this defeat and start to escape and leave all the army and leave all the people, as some of the leaders are doing now, that they maybe have a several defeat and defeat and defeat, and then all the time they are not wrong. The wrong are the soldiers, the wrong are the army, the wrong are anything but himself. But the Prophet, no, the Prophet was steadfast and tried to gather the Muslims again to continue the battle. And even next day, he went out with the same army that was him in Uhud in order to continue his jihad. And he is defending about the Islam, not to say that the people defeated the Muslims. And what happened was actually that the disbeliever army fled and escaped away to Mecca. As we mentioned from the lessons of Uhud, the hypocrites. The hypocrites disclosed their real intentions in words and in deeds. Consequently, the Muslim got to realize the existence of those wicked elements working secretly in their homeland. And of course, there would be appropriate measures to be taken in due course of time. This is one of very important lessons of Battle of Uhud, that the hypocrites start to be very clear and well known for the Muslims. And we mentioned that the dangers of hypocrites, because you cannot recognize them easily, because they are praying like Muslims, they are talking like the Muslim, they are with them with the Muslim in masjid, and it's very difficult to say that. But during the hardship, you can see and you can know how they start to complain about why we got out, and how that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam doing that for us, a lot of us killed. And if they just heard our opinion and stay in Medina and didn't go, this is began to be said by Abdullah ibn Ubay and his companions. When the Muslim army came back to Al-Madinah, they started to mention, if they were stayed like us in Medina, they couldn't happen to them all these injuries and all this killing happened. So you can imagine how much the Muslims suffered from those hypocrites. They came from a very hard battle, and they are injured, and injured psychologically and injured physically, losing 70 of them brave Muslims, losing Hamza, the line of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when they came back, they heard such bad words from the hypocrites. Another point of the lessons from Battle of Uhud, purposeful deferment of victory in some areas in order to check the pride of the soul and teach the believers how to observe full patience in times of adversity. Sometimes when we have victory all the time, even if there is a true believers, we are talking about believers, the pride come gradually to their heart. They started to have the pride. They started to have extra proudness of, because we are Muslims, yes, because Allah supports us, because the Prophet is with us. And this actually happened few years later after Battle of Uhud. It happens around 10 years, the 10 year after Hijrah, that we're going to have, inshallah, in another battle called Hawazin, against a tribe called Hawazin, the battle called Hunain, Ghazwat Hunain, or the Battle of Hunain, where what happened, that it's after the Fath Mecca, or Mecca conquest, and there was a lot of soldiers of the army and a lot of people entered Islam. And at that day, the Muslim army was attacking the rest of the disbelievers that present, and it was the last battle between the Muslims and disbelievers in the Arab Peninsula. So they were large in number, the Muslim at that time, and just came immediately 1 month after Mecca conquest. And the Muslim, full of pride, full of pride because of Allah conquest to the opening of Mecca. Many people went to Islam. The Muslim army now become something يعني, to be great, not like before. So the first part of the day, the first part of the day of that battle, the Muslim near to be defeated. But then again, the Prophet told them, come to me, come to me. But Alhamdulillah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them concise again and they had the victory at the end. So this is an important lesson for us, how to be not to be bride when we have the favor and the bounty of Allah on us. At any time when you feel that there is a lot of favors on you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have the love of people, you have a good reputation, you have a good salary, you are socially classed okay. Don't be deceived by these things. You have to put that all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't have any right to be bride of anything. It's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Any favor you have, it's from Allah. So the extra pride because of the favor or because of the victory could make the things go wrong, go on the wrong way. So trial and test are provided by Allah in order that the true believers could deservedly occupy their abode in the blessed paradise, and how much they will be patient. Also about the shahada or the martyrdom. The martyrdom or the shahada, the highest rank that the true believers of Allah could occupy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Imran is mentioning أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يعلم الله الذين جاهدوا منكم ويعلم الصابرين, and in the other ayah وَلْيَتَّخِذَ مِنْكُمْ شُهَدَاء. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when there is a battle for the Muslim fighting and people killed for the sake of Allah, this is the degree of shahada. The degree of shahada is the highest rank in Islam. The shaheed or the martyr is having a special way or special treatment, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't have the account, he will not be accounted on his grave by the two angels will come to him. He will not have those two angels to come to him, and he's always live, even if we considered him died, but actually his life, he is still alive, although that we can see him passed away. And this is mentioned also in Surah Al-Imran, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا ولكن in Surah Al-Baqarah ولكن أحياء بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. You are not feeling they are alive, but actually they are alive. Their spirits are present in the birds that present in the Jannah, in the paradise. The shaheed or the martyr has the intercession in 70 of his family, of his relatives. In the day of judgment, he can make intercession for 70 of his relatives. And of course, a lot of rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the shaheed. So this was one of the lessons at the shahada, that when we have lots of Muslims killed in a battle, that Allah provided them a shahada to function as a passport granted by the Lord leading to paradise. In brief, fight in the cause of Allah is a golden opportunity for the true believers to have their sins effaced, and a divinely devised event for the disbelievers and enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to face destruction and annihilation in recompense for their disbelief, tyranny, and transgression. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر